Hello and welcome to Adventures in Venueland, an EAMC podcast. This is your all-access pass to go backstage and behind the scenes with some of the brightest minds that cross the scope of the live entertainment industry. I'm Dave Rettelberger.
And I'm Paul Hooper. We'll introduce you to some of our favorite people as we dive deep into the world of live touring shows and the venues that host them.
Our adventure today takes us to Austin, Texas, where as you're listening to this, of course, we're recording this a little bit before, but as you're listening to this, it is, opening day, if you will. It is the first live event, the first public event, I should say, at the brand new Moody Center, Austin, Texas. And here to talk to us all about his adventures through quite a career, which right now has him as the SVP with the Oakview Group. And of course, heading things up there at the Moody Center. Lots of good stuff to talk about today. Jeff Nickler, how you doing?
Dave, Paul, thank you for having me. And I'm so excited to talk to you guys today and tell you a little bit about this project. It's exciting times in Austin, Texas.
Now, as we're talking to you today, people are listening to the audio only version. They don't see that, but you're wearing a hard hat, right? This is how close to the wire we are in getting this whole thing together.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I forgot how hard it was to open a building. This will be, I've done a few of these, but still in a hard hat and safety glasses and a vest. We're about 2 weeks out today from our first public event, just waiting on our certificate of occupancy so we can open the doors to the public. But we still have a lot to do. Some finishing touches, some signage, digital signage, and a few more finishes in the suites. But things are looking really great. Hopefully by the time everybody is hearing this, we're open and we'll have our first show under the belt.
Yeah, John Mayer, right? And then a big grand opening celebration at the end of the month with George Strait, Willie Nelson. Looks like quite a way to kick things off.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Our official grand opening is celebration will happen the weekend of April 29th and 30th. 2 sold out shows with George Strait, Willie Nelson, and Randy Rogers Band. I don't think it gets any more Texas than that. Right. Willie will be celebrating his 89th birthday on our first night. And that will be our marquee kind of kickoff moment. But prior to the grand opening weekend, we do have a few other events, ticketed events that will help us get warmed up. We actually start on April 19th with Earth, Wind, and Fire doing a private event, followed by 2 nights of John Mayer, Bon Jovi, and then Justin Bieber on the 27th. And then we roll into that true grand opening party and celebration weekend on April 29th.
I think one of the funny things that the public never sees is, they're arriving at these venues, and I think you hit on it a lot. They're arriving at these venues and they are like, oh my gosh, the doors are open, but they might not know all the hard work that goes into landing that plane right before the opening. And I think all of us on this call have, of course, either worked or known so many people that have opened venues, and it is kind of like a scramble. You're kind of like, oh shoot, we need to put this signage up, or sometimes it's literally printing things on the printer and taping them up in a hallway because you're like, oh crap, And I think what is both exciting but also challenging about that from your perspective, not only with Moody but your previous experiences?
Well, you're totally right. our goal when we open a building, and this is our third Oakview Group building opening, is basically to the public. Hopefully they don't notice. Those of us. Right. They walk into the building, they see a finished product, they feel really great and excited to be in this brand new building. Behind the scenes now can sometimes be a different story as you continue to have boxes and all those kind of day 2 finishes that need to happen. The goal is safely and efficiently open the building, right? But we'll still be working on some finishing touches here probably well into this summer, kind of the details, some of the backstage areas, some of the private areas the public doesn't see. Opening a building, as I mentioned, I forgot how hard it was. It's you are kind of building the plane as you fly it, and it's a pretty incredible experience because yes, there are some to-do lists and some grids from other buildings that have opened, but each building is so unique, right? So there's no true playbook. So inventing the processes and procedures, everything that the fan takes for granted, from ticketing to security to restroom flow to just all the details, the paint color in the restrooms, these small details that you as a fan walk in and just see, but years of planning have gone into it.
So groundbreaking was December of 2019.
Correct.
And so tell us all about, place in the market, because you're there at the on the campus of University of Texas, correct?
Correct. This building is really unique. We are building what will ultimately be what we believe to be one of the top 5 music venues in the country. And the fact that it actually is sitting on a college campus is unbelievably unique. This building is being 100% privately financed by Oakview Group and our partners, Live Nation, C3, and Matthew McConaughey, but will ultimately sit on land and be owned by the University of Texas. So we are going to build this building and then hand it over to the University of Texas. Now, what's important to remember is, yes, this will be a wonderful place for University of Texas to play basketball, but our intention is to drive this as a music venue, right? The city of Austin is in desperate need of a new world-class arena. The Irwin Center has been here for 40 plus years, still very functional, and has provided decades of memories for Austinites, but a world-class city needs a world-class venue. And that's what Moody Center will ultimately do. The true goal is for this to be one of the top music venues in the country, period.
I think it is interesting. I feel like I remember even when you were announcing the very beginning of it happening, that was a focus from the get-go, is this priority is on music. Of course, there's basketball, and it's going to be a great place for University of Texas, but I love the idea of kind of not having music be the afterthought and more on the forefront of, we want this to be a premier music venue and a great basketball place, but you don't have to choose one or the other. We can be exceptional on both fronts.
Yeah, I mean, our motto is music is an anchor tenant, right? This building, sure, it will be host to the University of Texas men's and women's basketball programs, but in too many pro sports venues around the country, the NBA team or the NHL team takes priority, and music, quite frankly, and concerts are an afterthought, but not the case with this venue. From the very design and then to the way we're operating it, it's a very dynamic building. One of the coolest things about this building is its versatility. For basketball, for college basketball, we are going to create a very rowdy home court environment for University of Texas. We will have a capacity of about 10,000 people. We'll put in these risers that will bring the action and the fans right down to the court. And we have this series of mesh acoustical panels that, with the push of a button, open and close around the upper bowl. So it takes this cavernous building and creates this one-of-a-kind, very deliberate 10,000 seat college basketball palace. Then fast forward to the concerts, we push a button, these mesh acoustical panels like garage doors rise up to the ceiling, revealing another 5,000 plus seats. Our capacity goes to over 15,000. We remove all the retractables. They all get pushed away. We have arguably the largest concert floor in the country. It's on pace with the Forum in LA. So you have this huge floor for the fans. And then you have this 15,000 plus elevated concert capacity. So it's two very different views from basketball to concerts.
You've got some really cool premium spaces too. So the one you kind of touched on, I want to know more about is these Matthew McConaughey inspired, what are they, the porch suites? I want to make sure I'm saying that right.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Matthew McConaughey is an equity partner in this project. He's officially our Minister of Culture, or MOC, as we
right.
And, he's not just a silent partner. He is actively involved in the decisions we make, and was truly actively involved from the beginning in the design process. It was such a cool experience to work with him over the past couple of years, especially when it comes to our premium areas. So he put his own twist on every single club and lounge, and on the premium level with the suites and what these porch suite concepts. Matthew had been to a bunch of arenas in the country, and what he never liked about a traditional suite was it felt closed off. It felt like, you had the seats in the bowl, and then you were kind of in this private area in the back, and it felt stuffy and claustrophobic and closed off and not really social. So what we did here is we took half our suites, we pushed them out further into the bowl and exposed them into the bowl. We removed a lot of the walls, and we created what we call our porch suites, which create this very social atmosphere in the front of these suites. We pushed the bar all the way to the front into the bowl. So you can be in your suite at the bar in the bowl, and you can share stories with your neighbors, high five your neighbors at a basketball game. And then if you want, like in your house, you could leave your front porch, go back into your private area in the back and have some privacy. But Matthew really wanted this front porch experience, which is so important to him and so authentic to Austin. That was a huge kind of design factor that he weighed in on. He also personally helped pick finishes out for each of our VIP clubs.
Wow.
As we approach this building, you'll hear me say this again and again, we wanted everything to be authentic to Austin, right? Authentic to Austin in every single way. This is a unique market, and a very proud, quirky, weird market, if we're being honest. And we wanted that reflected in everything we do. And Matthew understood that. So from the decor of the clubs to the cool art, he has been kind of hands-on in every way, and it really shows.
I love that he can supply this perspective that is outside of the industry too. I think it's easy for not even necessarily people working at the building, but even like architects sometimes, if they're in that world and that's kind of all they know, it might be a little harder for them to think outside the box and think of this kind of front porch style thing, because you're just sort of looking at other, arenas and comparing, or, okay, how do we tweak this one little thing? So I'm sure that was nice to have some fresh eyes that are sort of outside of the scope of live events, maybe traditionally, that can kind of say, why hasn't any venue done this before? And it's like, oh, that's a good question.
You're totally right. I mean, we were sitting in a boardroom at Gensler, which is our architect company at the time. Tim Lewicki was in the room, and Matthew brought up this idea, and Tim, who's opened up dozens of buildings around the world,
right,
kind of looks around the room. We all look at each other and we're like, yeah, that makes sense, Matthew. You're absolutely right. Because it was that fresh set of eyes, that perspective as a fan. Sometimes we get so down these rabbit holes in the business operations and the traditional ways of doing things. His perspective really can be felt here from a fan-facing, fan-friendly experience.
Jeff, when you look at your timeline from groundbreaking in 2019 to actually, your first public event in April of 2022, that's a good time to be designing and building a building, right? Because as we're getting back into it, but was that always the timeline, or did the pandemic kind of shift things a little bit?
It was always a timeline. The timeline, in fact, we're opening on time, on budget is what we like to say. The timeline was always what it is. Oakview Group, though, in hindsight, obviously we just opened up UBS Arena on Long Island, Climate Pledge, and also Savannah. I think we look like geniuses right now because I'll tell you, we did all this construction when the industry was essentially shut down, right? And the timing, miraculously, with the evolving pandemic, has allowed us to open up these buildings at a very busy, robust time in the live entertainment industry, right? So we look like geniuses, but no, it wasn't ever designed this way. This was always a timeline, and they were always aggressive timelines in all these projects too, but COVID really, personally for me, it was such a blessing, if we're being honest. Granted, we all in our own ways dealt with COVID in our careers, and a lot of our friends and colleagues were either laid off or furloughed. It was a tough time for the industry, but to be in a project where you're designing and doing all the behind the scenes things, to be able to move to Austin when the world was shut down, to get to know the community, to get to really focus on this building, and at the same time go home every night, not have to go to shows, and go home and spend time with my family. It was quite frankly a blessing in disguise doing this during COVID. And now we are hopeful. Obviously, we're not out of the woods yet with this pandemic, and we have a lot still to deal with, but we're going to live with this pandemic, right? We're going to live with this. We're not going to shut down again. So I'm hopeful that we're opening up at a really great time, and the live music calendar certainly reflects that.
Yeah, you have quite a lineup to kick things off there and keep you rocking through the rest of the year. So, Jeff, you've mentioned Oakview Group several times, but there are some places of the country where that's not a really a common thing where people know exactly what it is. So tell us about Oakview Group, how you got involved with it, and I know you're a big believer in their culture as well. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah. Well, Oakview Group, for those who don't know, is for many cases still an entrepreneurial startup company. We were founded only in 2015, so we're still a very young company. And industry titans Tim Lewicki and Irving Azoff founded this company, invested their own personal money into starting this company, and since then we received equity investment from Silver Lake, who owns a good deal of our company. And this company has grown from 2 employees in 2015 to over 20,000 employees today very quickly. We recently acquired Spectra, which has been rebranded as OVG Hospitality and OVG 360, and brought them into the fold. But the vision has always been to create, as Tim would say, a positive disruption to business as usual, right? So many times in this industry, it's do things the way we've always done it, regrettably. And Tim has challenged us all to think outside the box, to come up with new ways of doing things, to come up with new ideas, to take a risk and try new things. And, I've worked for a lot of companies. Regrettably, my former company, I would not ever say was visionary or forward thinking. And we as employees weren't necessarily empowered to do really big things. And that's completely not the case with OVG. Each of us is empowered to how can we make this company better and to present ideas. So, I maybe earlier in my career, I didn't always understand the value of like a company culture, but I can tell you today, I live and breathe this culture. And then Casey Sparks, who's my AGM here, and obviously a great friend of mine, as we built our team here in Austin, we have been deliberate about building this team and executive style around culture. Our motto is, we want to hire very qualified people, but even more important than their resume is whether they're a fit for our culture, right? Because with this incredible company culture and everybody rowing in the same direction, you can just the sky's the limit. You can do incredible things. So I don't think I ever would have had that ability in my former life as a leader to really develop my own culture and create this really incredible vibe from scratch. And this company allows me to do it.
And I think that's such an important thing too, not only for you all hiring people underneath you, but for the people that are getting hired to get brought into a company that's going to embrace what they bring to it and also elevate maybe their gifts and what they do. And so I think it's one of those things that it's kind of funny. Like, I think is we all have friends that maybe go after jobs or something and they're like, oh, I didn't get this thing. And I'm like, sometimes it's not because you're not qualified, but it's like, if they didn't feel like you were a good fit for them, probably they weren't a good fit for you either,? And so you have to kind of like go into a place that is going to embrace what you bring to it. And, then you feel comfortable there, they feel comfortable with you. And it totally plays into what you mentioned with that culture. Like you want people that are going to help support what your vision is, but also you want them to bring a different perspective maybe than you have. And so I think it's great from the top to bottom to kind of develop that and have that openness from the get-go.
Yeah, I agree, Paul. I mean, nobody gets into this business, and we're in the arena business to make lots of money, right? That's just not, if you never want to sit down and calculate how much you make per hour, right? And in a lot of cases, especially when you're opening up a new building, employees, we are spending more time with our coworkers than we are with our families or our loved ones or our significant other or our pets, right? So you got to like the people you work with, right? And you got to like the people that you're in the trenches with, and having that culture and valuing that culture is so important.
So Jeff, you talk about, why people get into this business as not being for the money. What brought you into this business? Because you did a lot of stuff in the hotel industry, right, to start off?
Yeah, I kind of had a roundabout way to get in this industry, and things kind of just worked out for me. But I grew up outside of Pittsburgh, went to college in West Virginia, and a childhood dream of mine was always to live in Miami, Florida. So graduated college, packed my bags, and moved to Miami Beach. And my first career was working for Ritz-Carlton, the hotel company. Started initially in guest services and eventually graduated to guest relations roles and really part of the management team for Ritz-Carlton for South Florida. I was at a point in my career where I was getting a little fed up with South Florida and the rat race in South Florida, and I was looking for something new. And through a lot of coincidences and some friendships, I heard about an arena under construction in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And John Bolton, who's now a mentor of mine, and Casey Sparks, who's now a coworker of mine, took a chance on me and hired me to move to Tulsa. I had no venue experience, right? But they were opening up this new building in Tulsa, and they needed somebody to deal with all the suite holders, sponsors, and premium clients. And because of my high-end hospitality and customer experience, they thought I was a great fit. They thought I was outside the box, right? That I brought a new perspective to the arena side of things. So I came into Tulsa initially, set up all the programs and infrastructure for the premium services department, and very quickly grew in my role in Oklahoma. But I was never, ever thinking about this industry. And it was this leap of faith to move from, trust me, Miami Beach, Florida, to Tulsa, Oklahoma was a culture shock. It was a leap of faith to change my life and move somewhere I'd never been or spent time, right? And it turned out to be the greatest decision I ever made. And just very quickly in Tulsa, I got ingrained into the arena world, loving what I did. I very quickly transitioned to developing special events in Tulsa. We had owned and operated special events, eventually started learning booking. And that's where I think, got my passion. It was the booking side of the industry, the relationships with the agents, managers, promoters. And booking really, I think that role really set me up for what ultimately has happened today. Growing within SMG at the time to very quickly being director of booking, assistant general manager, and then general manager of BOK Center. And then ultimately capturing the attention of Irving Azoff, who introduced me to Tim Lewicki and moving me to Oakview Group. So my booking background, I think, really is what set me up for ultimately everything I've done to this point.
So Jeff, you said, obviously, you get there, you're in that, that premium sales role, and you say that you spent some time learning booking. So somebody listening today is like, oh, I would like to do that. So how did you learn booking while on the job?
Well, first and foremost, I spoke up. I explained kind of what I wanted to know about. I was fortunate to have a mentor in John Bolton who believed in me and believed that I could be something really special for the company. At the time, our assistant general manager was Jerry Goldman, who's now the VP of Live Entertainment at United Center in Chicago. And Jerry, quite frankly, was the very first person who really sat down with me and taught me the ins and outs of booking. And let's be honest, booking concerts is not rocket science, okay? So it wasn't necessarily learning the X's and O's of how to book concerts. It was learning the relationships and the key stakeholders and being introduced and meeting the people who make the decisions in this industry. And it's a small group of people, let's be honest, a small group of people who make the decisions on hundreds of tours. So Jerry and then John Bolton at the time, both were my mentors in booking. And, one of the first things Bolton did was he sent me on a booking trip to New York. I had never been anywhere by myself to talk about concert booking. And they threw me in a room at the time with Dennis Arfa, Adam Kornfeld, and a few of the guys from AGI New York. And I had to pretty much try to explain to them why Billy Joel needed to play BOK Center at the time. I was a nervous wreck, but
right.
They threw me to the wolves and just made me do it. Right. I mean, you learn by doing, and that's really kind of how it all worked out. But it really, again, it all comes down to relationships. This whole business comes down to relationships, and COVID probably more than anything taught us, A, this is a really small world, right? B, you can't ever burn bridges, right? Because you're going to end up working with somebody again. And C, relationships are of paramount importance. Probably one of the best pieces of advice I ever got from John Bolton, and it sounds so simple. He told me, Jeff, just do what you say you're going to do, right? As you talk to agents, promoters, artist management, stay true to your word. This business is built on trust. Right? Do what you say you're going to do, and everything else will work itself out. So, those words were so important to me, and they sound so simple, but in a business built on relationships, trust, and in a business that's so small, you can't burn bridges.
No, I'm a huge believer in that, because there's so many people who don't follow up, don't follow through. And if it's just by saying, hey, I'll get back with you by Friday, it can be that small. You always get back with somebody by Friday, right? You just follow up, you do what you say you're going to do. It sounds so simple, but by doing that, you can stand out in the pack. And standing out in the pack is something that was definitely a priority for BOK. And I don't know if that came from you or from before your time there, but talking about, the BOK Center and the priority in, kind of making that venue stand out in a city that I have a lot of love for my experience in Tulsa, but it's a city that doesn't stand out necessarily, but the BOK Center definitely is that shining jewel of Tulsa. Yeah, I mean,
it's one of those, industry success stories when you look back, and it was a team effort, but the ability to turn what is arguably the 45th largest market by size and population into what has been a top 10 concert market. It took a lot of us working together to tell the story about Tulsa and really approach things in a different way. I mean, I can remember sitting in a boardroom when we came up with the hashtag Rock the BOK, which has kind of taken on a life of its own. But really in Tulsa is where John Bolton, myself, Casey Sparks, Michael Owens, our whole team, I think really pioneered this concept of backstage hospitality for the artists and promoters to a whole different level. I think everybody's doing it today, and I think you have to do it today.
And that's your fault, by the way.
Yeah, and now I wish I could rewind. It's a lot of work, right?
Take it back a little bit, Jeff.
but these innovative ideas where we sat in a room thinking of these just crazy gestures to do to get shows, or to impress an artist or to make Tulsa memorable. Because we realize, and this is the case everywhere, but an artist like Ariana Grande, she's going to fly into Tulsa or arrive on a tour bus. She's going to walk into that building, see the backstage, perform her show, and leave. And that 6 hours is going to be her view of Tulsa. She's not going to see the city. It doesn't matter what's outside that building necessarily at that point. So what sort of experience can we provide for her backstage? And I think that was the first time, at the time it was a crazy idea, but we knew she loved puppies, and we brought in 20 rescue dogs backstage, who were going crazy. Ariana adopted Strauss, one of her puppies, on site, and took him on tour with her. And then she paid for the adoption fees for 150 other dogs that night because she was so moved by the gesture. But it was this,
that's awesome.
It was just creating this connection with the artist. It goes beyond, you can give them a fancy gift, and we all do that. You can spend too much money on a gift that's going to get tossed or regifted or thrown in a storage bin somewhere, right? Or you can create this really memorable experience. And we knew Tulsa had to be all about that experience. So the backstage experience now, I think in Tulsa is, if I'm being selfish, the best in the country, from backstage catering to the dressing rooms to our incredible Zoolander themed gym we created there, to now they're building a recording studio backstage. So we never rested on our laurels there. We always wanted to kind of set the bar, because we knew, let's be honest, we were Tulsa. Yes, Tulsa now is a wonderful concert market, but we're still just Tulsa. We were never going to be a must play. So what could we do to put Tulsa in the conversation for every single concert tour, right? And now obviously what we developed in Tulsa, now we're trying to do in Austin, right? We have the luxury of Austin being a major metropolitan area, the 10th largest city in the country, a majorly underserved music market, a booming city, and a city, quite frankly, that tours want to play, because Austin has that cool factor. But how do we ensure that the artist comes here and has this really memorable experience that's authentically Austin, right? It makes them want to come back. Because we know the grand opening is going to be great. We know the bands are going to come for the grand opening in our honeymoon period, but we want them to keep coming back.
Yeah. One of the things that I remember from, having EAMC in Tulsa when we had it there, and we toured the venue, but some of those just crazy things back of house, which you hit on, but like the big murals that were kind of there, that I think makes it so easy for an artist to take a selfie and share it on their Instagram. And it's kind of funny. I think some buildings, this is a bit of a generalization, but maybe some older industry people might be like, why would we spend the money to put in a mural back there? It's just back of house, you're rolling road boxes. But I think you all saw that there is a big importance of having that kind of recognition back of house. And, something as simple as a big artist taking a selfie and posting it, that's getting seen by millions of people, and it's it's helping you with future tours. It's also clearly something that they want to capture. But I know also that you all had a speakeasy, right? That was behind a porta-john door, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
which is incredible.
I mean,
that's
legendary.
Stuff that it's beyond just just having nice catering or something, but it's something how do we really, I'm sure some people are like, what is this? But it's almost any excitement or anything that's different is going to catch people's attention, and it's going to make it stand out from the other 30 venues that they're visiting.
Yeah.
If they're going and getting good food and they're getting it at 20 or 30 other venues on that tour, they're going to remember the one that has the speakeasy, that has the porta-john door, because they're like, whoa, that was really different,
Yeah, it took a lot of work. The first thing we did, and people thought we were out of our minds, but we actually posted the position, did a nationwide search. We hired a good vibes manager. And I remember when we posted the position, Good Vibes Manager, we got a lot of kickback from our corporate office at the time, who thought we were being silly or unprofessional. But our philosophy was, we want good vibes for the guests coming in the front door and the guests coming in the back door, right? The touring folks, the artists, the backstage people, and quite honestly for our employees. So the Good Vibes role was developed to provide good vibes to fans, employees, and back of house. And now that's morphed into a whole department in Tulsa. You know, it's something that Casey and I, when we sat in our office coming up with the name Good Vibes, like we were trying to come up with the most fun sounding job title, right, to get the right candidates.
Right.
I think here in Austin, you know, we're gonna take that concept and evolve it. Of course, it'll be the Good Moods Manager here. There's a Moody Center, but we have a whole plan here, right?
I see what you did.
You got to take Tulsa and one up of now, right? So, but it's you know, we have a whole plan here. Obviously, how do we curate an experience? And you know, again, it all goes back to being authentic too, right? You can't. I mean, a lot of buildings, I think, try to do these things, and it just comes across as staged or not genuine, right? How do you do something cool backstage and really, you know, pay homage to your community and make it feel real? And that's kind of the $1 million question you got to come up with in each venue.
So Jeff, you know, one of the things, recurring themes of this podcast is how your identity can get so tied up, for better or worse, in your job. And so, you know, you were Mr. Tulsa, be okay for so long. Tell me about, you know, leaving Tulsa behind, what that was like for you.
It was probably the most difficult decision I've ever made in my life, because, you know, we had developed such an incredible reputation and team there that to this day are still family. You know, it's my family there, you know, and it was tough, but, you know, at that point, BOK was coming off of our most successful year in venue history. The building was in really good shape and in a really great place. And I felt like I was ready for that next challenge. And it all started when Irving Azoff was in town, and Irving's become not only a good friend, but a mentor now. But he was in town with his band Fleetwood Mac, and they had decided to rehearse and launch the Fleetwood Mac tour in Tulsa. And Irving, from that point on, from Irving spending time in the building, visiting the speakeasy that Paul was talking about, seeing our backstage hospitality, Irving was hooked that he was going to hire me, and that Tim and him were going to hire me come hell or high water, that I was going to come to OVG. And to their point, they never let up. The conversations probably went on for a couple of years till I really took them seriously. But, you know, Tim and I met at a restaurant bar in LA for the kind of where he gave me his final push. And, you know, I was a little intimidating at the time. He was trying to get me to come run the Arena Alliance, which was OVG's membership of 29 NBA and NHL facilities. And I was going to have to move myself and my family from Tulsa, Oklahoma, where I had a really comfortable life, to the west side of LA, and ultimately to Brentwood in LA. And that was a huge decision. And it was
that's a big jump.
Intimidating. Yeah. And I remember what Tim said to me. He goes, Jeff, you know, it's okay to be scared. If you're not a little bit scared about this opportunity, then something the hell's wrong with you if you're not scared, because you should be a little scared. But that's good, right? It's good to have a little bit of fear there, but you got to take a leap of faith. And taking that leap of faith and leaving all my close friends and everything I developed in Tulsa, that was a tough decision, but ultimately has set me up now for this kind of next chapter in my career. So I moved out to LA. We got a house in Brentwood, worked in our Westwood office at the time, overseeing the Arena Alliance, and being there in that office with Tim Lewicki every day, and Francesca, who's the president of our company, and upstairs from Irving, and to be able to get those relationships, it really set me up to write my ticket for that next chapter of my life. And that's what really caused them to entrust me to oversee this entire Austin project from start to finish. So things work in weird ways, but sometimes you have to take a leap of faith, right? It's in our industry, a lot of times you got to move on to move up. You know, that's what we tell the younger kids.
So talk to us a little bit about that position that you had with as the SVP with the Arena Alliance, Stadium Alliance. What were you kind of doing on a day-to-day basis there?
Well, the Arena Alliance is a really incredible group of arenas, 29 NBA and NHL facilities, arguably the top 29 major metro arenas in the country, that are all part of a membership. They all buy into this annual membership. And in turn, Oakview Group, our goal is to provide a return on investment. And we do that primarily in two ways. first, we work on their behalf to advocate for and influence content. So obviously, right at home, we work with Irving Azoff and all of his tours for Azoff Music. But we also work with obviously Live Nation, AEG, and all our promoter partners to drive content to all these venues. And on the flip side, we also have a global partnerships division that sells, right? So we take the assets of all 29 of these arenas, we package them together and we sell to national sponsors. For a national sponsor at the time like Walmart, it would be really unrealistic for them to do one-offs and buy assets at a bunch of different arenas. It would be a really difficult process to buy multiple arenas. But what we did is we aggregated those assets from all 29 arenas together and sold to Walmart, and in turn generated, in most cases, millions of dollars for these arenas. So basically, the Alliance is a membership group that provides a return on investment to these members. In my role, I really manage the relationships between all the venues, especially with the general managers at each venue. I travel to every single arena, got to know those venues well. I was there if they needed anything. During COVID, I helped spearhead a lot of our corporate OBG COVID initiatives. So we got all these buildings on the phone to talk through challenges together. As we learned, talking and sharing information was key during COVID. I work with our lobbyists to lobby on behalf of the Arena Alliance for national COVID relief for our venues and for things like that. It was a really wonderful job, and the fact that I got to meet what I think are the best venues and venue managers in the country. I got to see the 29 top venues in the country, and I learned so much. But ultimately, I miss being on the ground. I miss being at an arena. There's something to be said for being part of a team on the ground in an arena. And this Austin project gave me the chance to get back into it.
Yeah. So what was that move like from LA back to Austin?
It was incredible. I'll tell you, Austin's got to be one of the greatest cities on earth. And I've moved around a lot in my career. And I think whether or not I'm in this specific role, I think I'm going to be based in Austin, or I hope to be based in Austin for the rest of my career. Talk about a one-of-a-kind spot, kind of the best of all worlds. You have big city amenities and this cosmopolitan flair, but you also have this Texas hospitality and this really quirky, eccentric Austin vibe. It kind of fit me perfectly. The analogy I use is if Tulsa and LA had a baby, it would be Austin. It's great. It's got kind of the best of all worlds. The weather, except for a couple months in June, is perfect. And I have this quality of life that I don't think I could have anywhere else. It's incredible. And it's really exciting to be in a city that feels like it's on the brink of greatness, right? I think through our lifetimes, there's always been that next it city. Those cities that are emerging or booming. And I think Austin is that it city right now. It's, the fastest growing area in the country. Over 200 people move here every day. With Tesla moving here, Oracle moving here, and all these big tech companies here. It's an exciting place, and it's kind of cool to be part of that energy.
It's such a ripe music market too, which you kind of hit on, obviously kind of needing a updated arena, but there's so many clubs there. There's so much music history. It's kind of, and like with South by Southwest being there, it's so much ingrained in the culture. It's not like you have to teach the people of Austin how to enjoy live music. Like they're clamoring for it, true. And they want it. You just have to give them the venue to experience it. So I'm sure that's a kind of a cool thing, in that, you're coming into a market that people, they love music. It's already very much such a part of the culture, part of the history, part of everything.
You're absolutely right. It's in the DNA here, much like a Nashville or a Memphis, or what we would claim Tulsa as being a great music market. It's totally in the DNA here. People love live music, and they're willing to make an investment here in it. We've seen too. It was miraculous how quickly all of our premium seating and our suites and loge boxes and club seats sold out for this arena. The investment in live music here, people were buying club seat licenses here, not tied to any sports at all. That's really a unique model. Okay. Most major market arenas, you go in and it's people buying tickets that have access to maybe basketball and the right to buy concerts, right? Or right. Maybe your season hockey ticket tied with a first right of refusal to purchase tickets. Well, here people were purely buying the right to purchase music with our club seats. That is a brand new philosophy. and quite frankly, one that OVG plans to use in other markets as we build around the world.
So you mentioned, as you moved around the world, your family moving along with you. You mentioned family a couple of times. Tell us about a little bit your family life.
Well, I'll tell you, it's wacky right now. I wish I could see them a little bit more as we work to open this building, but Austin has been such an incredible step for me. So my partner and I have a wonderful 4-year-old daughter, Mila, who I think is loving everything about Austin. She just got her brown belt in Taekwondo yesterday at 4 years old, and is getting ready to start her Spanish immersion program in school. But, Austin truly, it feels like family here. I don't think I could have scripted something better to have work-life balance and to be so truly happy and content. I almost feel guilty saying that, how happy. I think I'm just waiting for something, to go wrong, because everything seems so wonderful right now, so I feel really blessed and really fortunate. The other kind of cool thing is, I keep mentioning, our partners in this project, Live Nation C3. Well, C3 obviously is based here. And C3 is kind of what I like to refer to as Live Nation Light. It's part of Live Nation, but there's this family element to C3. So getting to know, obviously, Charles Attal, who's one of the co-founders of C3, and Amy Corbin, who's based here. Our C3 partners here are like family too. So, they've kind of, the C3 folks here in town have embraced all of our Moody Center staff members as family too. And my family by default is part of that. So it's the activities and things to do with families here. It's amazing. I just can't say enough, Dave. Like, this place is perfect. They're printing T-shirts here that they sell around here saying, "Please don't move to Austin," because so many people are. And now I get it. It's just unbelievable quality of life. As a fan coming for South by and ACL, you never see that, or even for EMC a few years ago. You come, you stay downtown, you party, it's awesome, right? It's amazing. Yeah. But you don't get to see outside of the downtown bubble. This is a incredible city with amazing lakes to have fun on, and these microbreweries and hundreds of distilleries and wineries, and these great little suburban towns with their own charm. It really is a tremendous place. Like, I would encourage anyone listening, come down here, build a weekend around it, bring your families, come see a show, of course, but there's so much to do in Austin. It is such an incredible spot to visit, and you could fill a whole week, literally a whole week here with stuff to do.
It kind of does almost, not quite on the same scale, but there is an interesting thing hearing you talk about it. Remind me of some of the kind of fun quirks of Tulsa. So I can see how you like both markets in that regard. Like, I remember going to Tulsa, and I cannot remember the name of it. I'm brain farting right now, and you'll know about that big bike race. What is
Tulsa
it?
Tough. Yeah.
Tulsa Tough, which is such a wild experience. And I remember I met up with some staff at BOK and went to that and was like, what is this? And it's just like one of those quirky things that the local people love. It's something that's so unique to that market. And I'm sure Austin is just filled with it. I know it is, because I've got family down there. I've come down a few times, and it's just, there's so many fun things that I think people that live there can be proud of, that like, this is our thing. This is our, weird quirkiness,
I tell people in Tulsa that Austin is just like a great big Tulsa, right? Tulsa has so much cool stuff, from live music to breweries to awesome nature. There's just more of all that in Austin, right? It's a bigger city. In fact, it's helped me convince, when you look at our leadership team here at Moody Center, we actually have 7 executives who all came from Tulsa at some point. Right. Wow. So from Casey, my AGM, to Michael, our VP of programming, to Trudes, to Timbo, to Seth, we have brought a lot of our staff who helped us open up the OK Center over 15 years ago here to Austin to help us open up this building. And a lot of people say the same thing, that Austin's like a great big Tulsa. And I love that comparison, because I love Tulsa. Tulsa's special to me. Austin is kind of like this, my next chapter. It makes a lot of sense.
Well, the next chapter is one we can't wait to see as things get underway at the Moody Center. Look forward to visiting the venue here in the not too distant future. Jeff, before we let you go, I want to hit you with our Fast Five. It's 5 quick questions, just looking for your instant response. First up, what was your very first concert?
My very first concert, I was 9 years old, and it was Michael Jackson at the Pittsburgh Civic Arena.
Wow.
Bad tour.
Man.
How about your favorite concert?
Ooh, it's tough when you work in the industry.
Right.
My favorite band probably to see though is probably Coldplay. I think when you go to Coldplay, it's not only is it a concert, but almost like a religious experience. It's like a revival, right? You leave feeling religious, incredible, leaving that show.
How about your favorite vacation getaway? You get a chance to go away for a week with the family. Where you heading?
I would say anywhere with the beach. I'm definitely a beach guy. But every summer we make it to Europe at some point. So this summer we're actually going to the Italian Riviera, the Italian coast this summer, hopefully in July after we get this building open.
Nice. What's your favorite guilty pleasure food?
Probably alcohol, actually. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean,
I think you're the first person to answer that.
I mean, in this industry, you got to drink. Unfortunately, it's this job drives you to drinking. So like I love like whiskeys, bourbons, old fashions. Those probably or margaritas. I mean, those are kind of my guilty pleasure when I'm not just drinking my Tito's and soda.
Last question for you. What is the theme song to your TV show? There's a TV show where cameras follow you around all the time. What is the song that plays over the opening credits?
That is a tough one. If you're going to ask my staff here, though, at the office, kind of what I play the most, it's Cool in the Gang Celebration. I play that song here, like I think at every staff meeting or here. But honestly, like this is kind of nostalgic. John Denver's Take Me Home, Country Roads. I grew up in West Virginia. I've moved all over the world, but my heart is still, believe it or not, still back in those mountains. And to this day, every time I hear that song, my eyes water. And the first song my daughter learned was Country Roads. So that song is super special to me. I don't know if it's my theme song, but that's probably the most special song to me.
That's awesome. Well, Jeff, hey, if people want to look up, Moody Center or reach out to you, give us a couple plugs here.
Across the board on all social media, we're at moodycenteratx.com or www.moodycenteratx.com. Some incredible social media. Definitely check it out. Or for sure, add me on Instagram or Twitter at my name at Jeff Nickler. So again, I want to reach out to everyone, and especially all my EAMC friends over the years. Come see us in Austin. Come see this building. You're going to love this building. It's unlike anywhere else, and it's so authentic to Austin. Come be our guest. Please reach out to us. Give us a few weeks to open up this building, but then come down and see us.
We don't need any more people right now. But wait.
Down the road.
Yeah. Exactly.
Hey, Jeff, I know you're a very busy man, and good luck with the grand opening there. We really appreciate your time today.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks for having me, and have a great week. Come and see us.
And thanks to everybody for listening to this episode of Adventures in Venueland. Remember, you can subscribe and find more episodes wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. We'd love your 5-star reviews so you can help others find us. Until the next adventure, I'm Dave Rettelberger.
And I'm Paul Huber. Thanks for listening, everyone. Adventures in Venueland is a side project of the Event and Arena Marketing Conference, a nonprofit organization bringing together people in the field of live entertainment to discuss marketing, publicity, and sales trends. Find out more at eventarenamarketing.com.
Audio editing and mixing by Camille Faulkner.
Design and digital advertising by Megan Ebeck.
Copywriting and publicity by Samantha Marker.
Guest booking and brand strategies by Paul Huber.
Guest research by Dave Rettelberger.
Marketing strategies by Paul Hooper, Megan Ebeck, and Samantha Marker. Thanks for joining us. Until the next adventure.